What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Keedy the Casual Gamer, back again with another video today, man. And today we're gonna be talking about NCAA Dynasty mode. They just released a deep dive trailer yesterday, and they got a lot to unpack, man. I think you're definitely gonna want to know this. But let's go ahead and jump straight into it, right? First things first, you want to be able to build your coach in Dynasty mode. And what NCAA did was essentially they went out to these college coaches and sat in their offices and just got a glimpse of what it's like to be them on a day-to-day basis, right? Everything from recruiting to the workout plans to actually sitting down on the whiteboard and seeing what it is that they do to make them and their team successful, right? So essentially what they say verbatim is that what we found was that both current and former coaches broadly fit into three main categories. Some are incredible recruiters, while others are motivators who maximize the potential of their players. And lastly, tacticians out-scheme their opponents with X's and O's on the field. There are also a number of coaches who are more of a hybrid between two categories. For example, there were coaches who were great at both recruiting and X's and O's. After breaking down hundreds of coaches, two things were loud and clear. No coach was great at everything, and there is no single path to being a great coach. So what that told me, man, is what they did was they took the time to not only say, okay, this is a video game, but you know what? We want to make this as real as possible. We want to give the players, you know, the fans, the true NCAA OG fans, a real life experience of what it's like to be a coach on a day-to-day basis, you know, at least as close as they could, right? So understanding that they know that everybody has strengths and weaknesses, especially in coaching, right? So they went out, they just wanted to get the information that they could from these coaches and just try to learn and figure out ways to put that into NCAA 25, which I think could be a huge game changer for the gaming community, at least in the sports gaming community world, right? So they even took an example like, you know, the greatest coaches of all time, right? Alabama back in 2013, the offense had fallen behind. The world of college football offenses were changing. You know, I'm sure Alabama was running that powerhouse run game, and they had to switch, man. They had to switch their whole philosophy, bring in an offensive guru who transformed that Alabama offense into more of an air raid style of offense. And it went on to lead them to, of course, I mean, you all know this, right? They've been killing everybody in college football for the past, really this whole decade, right? So they won 6 out of the next 8 national championships just by changing their offensive scheme, right? Which is something that you guys might be able to do in Dynasty mode too, but we're gonna dive deeper into that, right? So the next thing that they added is the coach progression, which is something big that I think you're definitely gonna want to stay tuned for, especially those guys that are taking on those 1-2 star programs and trying to shift the tides a little bit and turn them into the next Alabama, right? So progressing with your coach starts with playing games. Obviously, as you play, you will complete coaching goals that award you XP. Once you earn enough XP, you will level up your coach to a maximum level of 50 and be awarded coach points. Now, coach points can be used to upgrade your coach's abilities, right? So, of course, there are 4 coaching XP goal categories that can be single game, weekly, season, or career goals. So here they have draft, right? So based upon which players that you have that year that come out and go drafted in the first round, or I'm assuming, you know, first through 3 rounds would essentially bump up your coaching XP. Also, they have games, so individual goals that range from a single play like an interception or a rushing touchdown to a full game of results. So for example, if you beat your rival, right? You know, nobody wants to play with Ohio State in Dynasty mode, clearly. But let's just say you got, you know, Michigan and you're playing Ohio State and you beat Ohio State, man, that could be a huge boost for you as a coach. I can even see where if you got a, you know, one of those 1 or 2 star programs like a Akron, and you got Georgia week 2 on the schedule, and you go into Georgia's house and you upset Georgia. I mean, that could be a huge, I'm sure you get a ton of XP points as a head coach just for a victory like that, which could give you a lot of things, a lot of upgrades that you might want to have throughout the season. Next, they have recruiting. So determined by your success on the recruiting trail, recruiting goals can be specific to a single prospect. For example, if you sign a 5-star prospect or a full season, like sign the best recruiting class in the country, that also can get you some XP points as a coach and boost up your level. Now, the chances of you taking a school like Akron, Coastal Carolina, somewhere like that, and getting the best recruiting class in the country is not realistic, right? But hey, you win a couple of those big key rivalry games, big upsets, get a couple of national televised games, and win a couple bowl games, maybe a national championship. And you never know, man, in the next couple of years, you may have the top recruiting class in the country, depending upon what you do with them sticks. And lastly is just stats, right? So weekly goals, like ranked in the top 10 when the season stats. For example, if your team has 4,000 team passing yards and ranked top 5 in offensive yards, and career goals like win 5 national championships, I'm sure that's going to boost you crazy. So the number of times you've completed a certain goal and your progression towards those goal completion can be viewed in the Coach XP goal screen, which can be accessed via the coaching tab in Dynasty Hub, right? So they've added 5 different progression speed settings so you can modify how fast your coaches progress in Dynasty. So I think that's big, especially for you guys that like to do, online dynasties with your friends. You want to make it challenging. You don't want guys to just go in there and cheese the game and say, okay, I'm going to just get 2 rushing touchdowns every game and give them 3x, XP goals just for something like that, right? You want to make it challenging, but at the same time, you want to make it rewarding for those guys that's going out there winning. In my opinion, at least, that's how I would play. And then also, every time that you complete those goals in game, you receive a notification on the top left corner of the screen describing the completed goal and the XP that you get. Here in this picture, you can see the coach got a goal complete, right? He got a first down, so he got 2 points, but then he got a passing touchdown which gave him 20, right? So that's kind of huge, man. I mean, that's a huge jump, right, from a first down being +2 to a passing touchdown +20. So you go out there and you have those games where you're throwing 5 or 6 passing touchdowns in one game. That could be a huge boost for you as a coach. And then even after the game, you'll receive a screen where it'll show you, this was like NCAA 14 back in the day, right? Where you'll see the XP screen and it shows you your progression to the next level, similar to like 2K with, the My Player, right? You go out, you play a game, and then after the game, it's going to show you how far you are to getting to that next level, right? So that can determine what type of play style you may want to have or what goals you may want to set for that next game that following week. Boom. And this one, the third one, which I think is always going to be huge. I think this is going to be a good feature that a lot of you are going to like, that I personally like myself, is the coaching archetypes, right? So EA Sports College Football 25 said they're introducing new archetype based coaching ability system, which is similar to, your RPG classes, where all of your party members have a specific class, right? So pretty much what they're doing is saying that you can build your base archetype and progress in multiple ways. You could become an expert in a single category, like recruiting, where you could become an elite recruiter and excel, or you can turn into a hybrid coach, for example, which is like a talent developer, which is great at both talent acquisition, which is pretty much recruiting, and player developmental, which is going to be classified as motivation. So the ultimate goal is to become, a program builder or a CEO at the top of the world. But let's just look at the different types of archetypes that they have. So of course they have motivator, recruiter, and tactician. But they're saying in total that there are 11 different archetypes, which each have their own focuses and perks. Together they form a rock, paper, and scissors relationship where there is no dominant archetype. While there is no doubt that talent acquisition is the most important thing in college football, focusing solely on the recruiting could leave you vulnerable in other areas. Remember, no coach can be great at everything. So every decision that you make is going to matter in your coaching journey, right? So like they just said in the article, if you say, hey, I want to be a master recruiter, then hey, you could bring in a lot of guys, a lot of talent, but you might not be able to motivate those guys, right? Depending upon how you want to structure out your coaching archetype could be huge. In my opinion, we'll see what goes on, but right now I'm kind of liking the recruiter slash tactician. I think that'll be a huge one, but hey, we never know, right? So how do I actually upgrade my archetype and get it better as a coach, right? So pretty much what they're saying is that each archetype has an objective that needs to be completed in order for you to purchase it. So for example, in order to be an elite recruiter, you must spend 50 coaching points in the recruiter archetype and sign 2 top 5 recruiting classes. Once these goals are complete, the archetype becomes available for purchase with coach points. When creating your coach, you will select base archetype you want to finish with. The 2 other base archetypes would then be available for purchase with the coach points without the need to meet any additional requirements. So based off of that, man, you're gonna have to get your coaching points up just to even have a certain type of archetype as a coach, right? So you're gonna have to do some things, win some games, sign 2 top 5 recruiting classes in order to become that master recruiter, for example. So you're really gonna have to grind it out, make sure that you're doing the right things, winning those dynasty modes, man, and then hey, the sky is up, right? So the next thing that they have here, which I think is also pretty cool, is that they actually have a screen where you can actually view your progress and the coach's abilities, right? So which is accessible from the coach tab in dynasty mode, and you can just see what is all required to unlock certain perks and overall progression in each archetype as you're spending your coach points. So it's kind of like a spider graph that they have here, where you can see the center of the screen or morph and change to show your coach's DNA, right? So right here you could tell on this picture that they have a coach's ability screen, which is kind of like a spider graph, and it shows you everything that you need in order to be unlocked certain requirements and perks, and just overall progression in your archetype for whatever coach you have, right? They have the big game bonus, additional XP for winning bowl games or a national championship game. Here we have the master motivator, so he's even unlocked a couple of requirements met to almost reach that goal, right? So you got 5 players drafted, and then he needs to spend 50 in the motivator, so he's about 10 XP points off from that. But I think that's pretty cool because it gives you a way of viewing your coach and your progression, obviously, right? Like I said, it's going to give you those challenges and those perks that you need and things like that, and just in order to boost up your coaching level. So if you need a couple guys drafted that year to become that master recruiter or master motivator, you need to make sure you do what you can do for those guys on the field, man, to make them shine, so that those NFL scouts can go and get them guys and turn them into superstars, right? That's what everybody wants. It's going to bring you more talent. So this is just another thing that they also added in, which is very, very good, man. It's saying no longer is coach great at recruiting across the board, but now coaches will have to specialize in specific position groups, making your staff composition that much more important, right? So here it's saying, are you a quarterback whisperer? Are you great in the trenches and committed to the no-fly zone? How does your staff complement you? In addition to position-based boosts, there's also coaching abilities with core gameplay effects, so you can really cook, man. I mean, for example, it's saying here the scheme guru, which is another one of those hybrid archetypes, focuses on your gameplay style. So if you're a coach who likes to play fast, you can upgrade the fast tempo offense, providing you with the following boost. And they have 4 tiers for it, right? Tier 1, battery pack, offensive players fatigue, slower, and hurry up. Tier 2, caught napping, right? Increase the delay to the defenders looking at the sideline before the snap. Tier 3, on their heels, team composure boost for first down gained while running hurry up, which I think could be a killer one if you just killing somebody and they can't sub their team out, sub in new players for their team, right? And then tier 4, tipped your hand, chance to see the defense's cover shell and hurry up. That's OD. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're out there hurrying up on the field and you're getting multiple first downs and you got a tier 4, man, you can see what scheme they're in. Like, that's kind of crazy, right? So it's saying here that you can also make your team a well-oiled machine who doesn't work against themselves and is unfazed by rowdy home field crowds by upgrading the discipline slash communication ability. So that's huge for if you're going to play at Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, some places like that that are huge, got huge stadium bonuses just because they're winning, right? It's a top program. You're going to play there. They brought back the crowd meter and everything. So you're going to need that, right? Tier 1, they got the hater blockers, man. Slight reduction in crowd noise impact on the road. Tier 2, Teflon, significant reduction of crowd noise impact on the road. Tier 3, polished. Offensive players will commit slightly fewer penalties. And then tier 4, the clean sheet offense. Offensive players will commit significantly fewer penalties, right? So of course, all of this is balanced based upon, what you do and what you decide to do with your team. But I'm liking what I'm seeing there, man. I mean, if you're one of those guys that like to have a high pace, fast offense, maybe you want to go for the tempo, right? If you're one of those guys that's like, hey, I want to make sure I slow the pace down, make sure my team is composed when we go to play those big rivalry games, and I'm at Akron and I got to go to Ohio State week 3 or 4, man, and I want my team to be composed when I'm playing them. That might be something that you want to lean more towards. So I think they did a great job just, with that specifically, and who knows what the future may hold, right? You can mix all type of different things together to come up with what works for you and your dynasty scheme. And a little sneaky thing that they added in was talking about your coordinators, right? So no longer can you just be the head coach and everything that you say go, right? Whatever archetype that you have work, you also have to have a staff that have certain abilities to kind of, mesh well with what you have in order to make your team successful, right? So they're saying that all of the abilities of your coaching staff must stack together to increase the effect of an ability, right? Abilities owned by the head coach will have the greatest impact, but the impact of coordinator owned abilities depends on whether or not the ability is related to their side of the ball. So they're saying here, for example, if your defensive coordinator has the quarterback icy veins ability, which boosts your quarterback's composure at the beginning of the game, it'll have a much smaller effect than the offensive coordinator owning it, right? So also your coordinators will automatically progress their archetypes and abilities. You will not be able to control which abilities they purchase, nor will you be able to respec your coordinator's abilities. So this adds even more importance to how you progress your coach and manage your staff in the coaching carousel. So that's huge, right? Because now if you're going and you're trying to hire a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, then maybe you need to sit there and figure out what type of abilities that they have, because I don't want a defensive coordinator that has a quarterback or offensive ability. I want a defensive coordinator that has a defense ability, because then that's going to boost up my team's play on that side of the ball. So it's no longer just, hey, this guy was at Georgia and he had a good year. You got to figure out which coaches will mesh well with your program in order to your play style, right? In order for you to be successful. So I think that's a huge thing that they added in. Next, they have climbing the ladder, right? All of us want to elevate yourself as a coach. So of course you have 3 different options that you can choose from when you're starting out dynasty mode, whether you want to be an offensive coordinator, a D coordinator, or a head coach, right? So I'm going to choose a head coach. So let's say, for instance, you chose to be a head coach, then you'll sign on that dotted line for your contract. And those results and those expectations that the school will have will be determined by them, right? Determined by the school's prestige and the program standing, right? So the better the school, like a Michigan, Ohio State, then the higher the expectations, right? So there are 4 types of contract expectations: win games, win a conference championship, make the college football playoff, and win a national championship. So just like in real life, man, your job security going to be based upon how well you do in that contract, in those contract years, right? How many games are you winning? How many playoff appearances do you have? How many recruits are you signing? All of that is a huge factor into how you will be judged as a coach, right? So at the end of that, like, all coaches have grades and they have prestige letters, right? So a grade that ranges from A plus to a F. So coach prestige is reflective of your ability to meet contract expectations, adjusted for the school and role that you have. For example, meeting expectations and winning 5 games at a small school will have a significantly smaller impact than SEC championships at a traditional powerhouse school. So pretty much when you sign that contract, like, take for instance this picture right here, right? You have a guy at Oregon, he signed a 3-year contract. Oregon's a pretty high program, right? So he's got a C minus prestige. His job security is safe right now, but I'm sure if you lose in year 1 and year 2, you have a mediocre to below mediocre season. Year 3, man, if you're not hitting those playoffs and winning a national championship, most likely you're gonna be out the door looking for a new job, which is something else that they added in, the coaching carousel, right? So how does all this work? The coaching carousel kicks off during conference championship week. So during this week, all coaching contracts are processed and schools determine if they want to fire, extend, or even, let a coach's contract just expire. If your school has decided to fire or extend you, you'll receive an action item notifying you of the news. If you are the head coach, you will also be able to fire your coordinators during this week, which means if you feel like that D coordinator or offensive coordinator wasn't doing their job during the season, even though you're the one holding those sticks, you can fire them, which is crazy, right? So once you advance in the bowl season and you arrive, the first round of job offers will go out. If you received any job offers, like, you'll be notified via action item, view job offers tab that they'll have in the Dynasty mode. If you did not receive any offers, you will have a generic action item titled Coach Carousel, and pressing this action item will take you to the coaching carousel screen where you could see and view all the job offers that you have, as well as the job openings across the country. So they're saying pretty much just like in real life, right? After that season, you may feel like, okay, I had a great season with this school. I'm here at Akron and the Auburn job just opened up, right? And you may be able to look and they may have sent you a letter wanting to come and interview you, right? To see if you want to take that Auburn job and go take over a much bigger program. Or you may have had a couple of, DCs or offensive coordinators that weren't doing their job, or some of them may have been doing their job that season, and you just like the way that Oregon was running the spread offense, and you want to go and try to get one of those guys off of that staff, which I think is huge because it's just like real life, man. That's how the coaching game is. That's how the college football world is. If you feel like whatever pieces that you need to bring to your program, that's what you need to go out there and do. So it also says here that how do schools determine who they want to hire? So each school has a school persona which determine what they're looking for in the next head coach, right? So level, scheme, archetype, pipeline, and the coach's prestige are all things that determine whether or not a 5-star program is going to hire you. Or it could be, a 3-star program. So all of that plays a huge role into everything. Just like I said, man, depending upon how many recruits you done brought in, how many games you've won, how many playoff appearances, national championships that you have, and even your coaching prestige grade, right? If you're a C minus, I don't think you're gonna get that Alabama job, right? But if you're an A minus, you may be getting calls from Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, schools like that. And it's such an amazing thing to me because they even added the images in the coaching carousel, right? So they have the staff moves that shows, for instance, like Abe Bates, who was the head coach at Cincinnati, got fired. He had 29 talents. It even shows how many talents that the coach had. Whereas, Abraham Lincoln, the defensive coordinator at Tennessee, he went to the NFL. So it's showing you certain coaches across the country and their moves, whether they got fired, they retired, or they went to the NFL. And that will allow you to go out and decide which coaches that you want to bring to your staff. Maybe they have a feature in there where it's a legendary coach that you like how he played and he retired. Maybe you could go talk to him and get him to unretire and come be on your squad or your staff for one more season. So I think that'd be a pretty cool feature that they added in, man. So that's just a lot, man. That's just the tip of the iceberg of what this Dynasty article has offered. I mean, it's real life, right? You have to go out and coach you have to be able to recruit, you have to win games. And if you're not doing that, then you have to be able to go out and get some coaches that's going to help you win games, right? And everything just plays a role in how successful you can be, and your team can be in this dynasty mode, man. Whether you gonna win with them sticks in your hand or you gonna get your ass fired. So yeah, I'm loving it so far. I can't wait till the game drop, man. Stay tuned for more videos in this dynasty deep dive. Just like I said, I just tipped the iceberg, man. Like and subscribe. Peace and blessings.